Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/EntitledPeople for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Lapis Teardrops. Karen owns the parking lot. I parked with my mother in a public parking lot. This woman parked her car right behind mine, completely blocking the way. My mom and I were looking for the owner of the car to ask them to move it, but apparently, since she lives 2 blocks from the parking lot, she thinks she can park wherever she wants. She came out of her house screaming, along with her daughter and husband, both just like her. While the daughter and the woman were yelling at my mom, I flipped off the daughter and they all exploded in rage. The daughter's father even said he was going to hit me. All of this just because apparently no one can tell them to move their stupid, badly parked car. Was I wrong? Edit how it ends. The father kept threatening to hit me for flipping off his daughter, which is ridiculous considering they had been insulting and trying to hit my mother. "Why do you have to do that to my daughter?" the father said. I said, "I didn't just do it to her. I did it to all 3 of you." Meanwhile, Karen was already moving the car while still yelling. Then we left quickly. The dumbest part of this whole story is the couple was between 40 and 50 years old and the daughter was between 25 to 30 and I'm 17. So as a general statement, just because I think this is probably pretty important and could possibly save someone's life, at least in America, if you're ever in a confrontation with someone, don't flip them off, especially if they seem excessively aggravated, because you don't know if they have a gun and they're a hair trigger away from committing a felony. So please, as funny as it might be, try to avoid doing that. But the post in general is a bit ridiculous because it sounds like someone who lives 2 blocks away from the parking lot believes they can just use that as a general parking space and inadvertently block someone in, possibly purposefully. Then when confronted, got aggravated for a variety of reasons. My main question though is, with them being 2 blocks away, how did they identify the person's vehicle and get into contact with them so they could move them? Was it just coincidence that they happened to wander out there after seeing people surrounding their car and made a big fuss about it, or was there more to it? I don't know, there just seems to be a lot of missing context with this and a lot of assumptions have to kind of be made in the meantime. But again, with flipping someone off, in the US at least, when someone's extremely angry, people have certainly been shot for less, so definitely, be careful about that. It's certainly a lot more common with road rage incidents than anything else. Death by metal. Homeowner flips over his recycling bins. I drive a truck for the county recycling program. I started working there about 4 years ago, and this story happened a few months after I started. 2 things are important to the story. When I'm on the route, I drive on the passenger side of the truck, in the US, and operate the arm of the truck using a joystick. The arm extends about 10 feet. We service every address in the county on a 2-week rotation. On this particular day, I was in a township that's pretty rural, lots of farmland and forests, and it's not unusual to have to drive a fair distance between bins. On the road this takes place on, I pick up in front of one of the houses, then drive almost half a mile before coming to 3 houses next to each other. I get to the first house and see that the recycling bins are about 75 feet from the road, and they are behind the trash bins for that house. So I assume they didn't have any recycling to get picked up that day and drive to the next house. As I'm picking up their bins, I noticed a car pulling into the driveway of the first house, but I don't pay it any mind. Then I drove to the 3rd house, and as I'm about to leave there, I noticed that the vehicle at the first house was backing out of the driveway. Still, didn't think twice about it. From there, I continue up the road maybe a quarter mile and turn onto a narrow side road. On the passenger side of the truck, there's fields and a culvert right by the edge of the road. On the left side, there's a forest. The street is fairly narrow and with a culvert so close to the edge of the road that I'm focusing on staying in the center of my lane. Suddenly, the car from that first house passes me, and when it gets in front of the truck, he slams on the brakes. I end up stopping about 2 feet from his car. Guy jumps out and runs up to the driver's side door and starts pounding on it. Again, I'm driving on the passenger side of the truck. Also, I'm driving standing up. Guy realizes I'm on the other side and runs around the front of the truck and starts screaming at me. Homeowner, why didn't you pick up my recycling? Me? You mean the bins that were 75 feet away from the road? The arm doesn't reach that far. Homeowner, you should have gotten out of the truck and got them. Me? We're not allowed on the homeowner's property for insurance purposes. Homeowner, well, I just got out of... local heart and lung hospital, and I can't bring them to the road myself. How else are they gonna get picked up? Now, mind you, this guy is screaming at me the entire time, red in the face, over recycling. Is it any wonder why he was in the hospital that specializes in heart problems? I respond, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe ask your neighbor to bring them to the road for you? Homeowner, you're going to drive back there and get my bins. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Oh, yes, you are. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Have them by the road and I'll pick them up. I'm calling your boss. What's his number and what's your name? Me, totally fed up with this tool. I'm not telling you a goddamn thing. He proceeds to take a picture of me, the front of the truck, and a close-up of the license plate, and finally gets back in his car and takes off. Now, even though this is a side road, it's got quite a bit of traffic on it due to 2 schools that are just past the end of my route. So this entire time, he's been yelling at me, we're blocking 1 lane and people are trying to get by. I got further up the road to a place where I could pull over safely, and I called our customer service number to give the woman who answers the phone the heads up that this guy might be calling. I filled her in on the whole encounter. She called me back that afternoon and said he called and argued with her for 45 minutes about his bins not being emptied. In the past 3.5 years since that happened, he has only put his bins by the street twice. I've been keeping track. I do wonder if he had nicely asked for help and explained the circumstances of his current medical condition if OP may have been willing to bend the rules a little bit to give some assistance, but at the same time, not being able to go up the driveway and grab the recycling bins that are also tucked behind the trash bins for insurance purposes is an entirely understandable reason to not be able to do that. Dude puts so many people at risk by driving like this and blocking off a rural road and slamming on his brakes. Like, people could have been hurt from this kind of bullshit. But nah, my recycling bins. In God's hands, with Z's. Male Karen wants a refund for a meal he bought a month ago. So I, female 31, work at a cheeseburger restaurant chain that isn't fast food. It's a new job, so I haven't had a ton of time to see crazies yet, but I saw one today on my 3rd day of work. This isn't my story as much as it is Jay's. Jay is a teenage girl I work with whose identity and age I want to keep private, since she's still a minor. But this story is from what she told me. So I walk into work today and one of my managers is sitting at a table talking to this middle-aged looking man wearing a blue sweatshirt, green sweatpants, black shoes, and a dark beanie. Let's call him Ken. Ken and my manager, R, 20s male, are having a quiet argument. I don't know what it's about and I don't pay much attention. I go behind the counter and clock in to hear Jay telling my other manager, A, 38 male, and H, 19 female, what's going on. So evidently, Ken came to our restaurant like 4 weeks ago, which was in December. Jay was the cashier. He got a burger, fries, and a drink. I don't remember the exact order. Then he ate it without a fuss, tried to tip Jay a $10 Walmart gift card that she refused, and left. Like 3 weeks later, Ken calls on the phone to rant about how awful the meal was, even though he ate it all. How he was too scared to tell Jay at the time, who works in front of the house and not the kitchen, and how he demanded a refund. Jay gets a manager who talks the guy down on the phone enough to get him to hang up. Then, 1 week later, the day I came in, Ken came in person to demand a refund. He claimed that Jay didn't give him a receipt and tried to argue his case. Then he got our poor manager R to sit down and listen to his crazy rant. The owner came by and let us know he was getting nothing. The managers told him as much, but the guy wouldn't give up. 3 hours later, when I'm about to get off early since we were overstaffed, Ken returned and asked for the manager again. A was there this time and told him the same thing. I left, so I don't know when this saga will end, but that is the most bizarre customer encounter I've ever seen. Some of my coworkers thought the guy might be homeless or mentally unstable. I don't think he's homeless because although he was in sweats, his clothes were clean and his face was clean shaven. I don't know what his hair looked like. He's probably off in the head and needs help, but he also might just be a Karen. I mean, for starters, if he couldn't even provide a receipt for his purchase, there is no evidence that he made that purchase. Like, how are you going to honor the exact dollar amount that he's trying to get back if you don't know what the exact dollar amount was? Also, tinfoil hat theory of mine, because this used to happen a lot when I worked at fast food, I think he tried to hit on the cashier, even though that she was a minor, And the $10 Walmart gift card was an attempt to bribe her. You might think I might be overextending here, but this was really common when I worked in fast food. The amount of times a guy like in his late 30s would try to pick up or hook up with one of our underage cashiers was just insurmountable. I oftentimes had to go to the front to essentially be the replacement cashier so they would go the fuck away because they would just order a bag of fries and then just sit there and watch the poor cashier for nearly an hour. So I almost wonder if that might be slightly attached to it and slightly part of the reason, and he just kind of wanted an excuse to return to the restaurant, but when he got there, Jay wasn't working the front of the store, so he wanted to lure her out by complaining about the service that he got, and it just ended up turning into a massive fiasco. I don't know. I've dealt with people like this in the past, and that's just what my mind jumps to because this is just some straight up bullshit insanity. Extension Exchange 140. Two friends cut us off because we didn't invite them on vacation. Hi, so I, 22 female, have a big friend group of around 10 people. We usually get along fine and get together a few times per month. A few years ago, we tried to set up a vacation with all of us, but it didn't work out because no one could find the exact same time to go. So we went with 7 people, leaving the other 3 behind. The other 3 were fine with it and wished us fun. This vacation was kind of weird because of 2 people specifically. Let's call them Daniela, 21 female, and her boyfriend, Marcus, 21 male. They micromanaged a lot. Told us what to do and where to go at all times, which might be because it was Marcus's vacation home and he knew the location well, but still. They got mad at me when I didn't like their chicken and called me stupid. They felt I should know to plan around the vacation when I had to leave 2 days earlier than the rest because I got an unexpected internship, which I needed for school. Overall, the vacation was moderately fun, but not something I wanted to repeat. A few friends made the comparison that when I took them with me to my family's vacation home, I let them do whatever they wanted and did not dictate how to spend money and what to do and eat. So I think that's when it kinda hit us that they were doing that. Marcus and Danielle are very controlling in general. At one point, they even checked our location, saw that we were hanging out with a few people, called us, and asked why we didn't invite them. Last year, I came up with the idea of going on vacation with a few people. I asked in the group chat and said I could only bring 4 people. The first 4 who responded went with me. Danielle and Marcus were not part of this vacation and got extremely upset, calling us names and saying we weren't real friends, etc. We offered to have them come if they booked an Airbnb nearby, but they only agreed if we split the bill with them. We tried to accommodate and communicate every detail, but the booking got postponed so much that it cost us a lot extra, almost 200 euros each. We couldn't find a solution and decided to go without them. They got very mad and said we cannot go on vacation without including everyone. The other 3 people from the first vacation were also not going, and they were okay with it. It's just Danielle and Marcus who are upset. They think that because they invited us the last time, they should join now. They even imposed a rule that if a vacation includes 3 or more people, we have to invite everyone. Fast forward to last summer, I found that rule stupid and asked my 4 best friends in the group if they wanted to go with me on vacation. They said yes, and we started planning. My grandma surprised us for my 21st birthday by purchasing rooms in a beautiful hotel for each of us, so it was quickly decided we would go. We knew we had to tell Danielle and Marcus somehow because just going without telling them would make them very upset. We postponed it and 2 months went by without telling them, making it awkward. I finally told them kindly what the plan was and that it wasn't intended to be rude. Well, this backfired. They became extremely upset. When I first told Danielle, she seemed okay with it, but then I received a text from her saying that they were actually extremely mad at me. They were upset that my friends and I didn't communicate and just booked the vacation without them. We somewhat understand, but we just didn't want to go through the whole thing again like last year. Now, a few months later, they have completely cut us off. They told us that we were the worst friends ever, that we shouldn't treat people this way, and that we need to behave differently. I'm curious to what others think, because maybe I really was a bad friend and need some perspective. Edit, I see some comments talking about my finances and affording multiple vacations a year. To be honest, I don't know how that's relevant, but maybe the context changes things. We are not from the US. In our country, it is so normal to go on vacation each year. Also, the vacation with Marcus and Danielle was a budget holiday. But I do understand how this might sound. We are all incredibly privileged, and there is so much bigger problems in the world. This shouldn't even be one. You're all completely right. Alright, being able to go on multiple vacations a year aside, which is a luxury most Americans cannot afford, if you have quote-unquote friends that are stalking your location and interrogating you on why you didn't invite them, or insulting you on your poor planning when you have something unexpected come up, or just in general kind of just assholes, don't worry about them cutting you off. Genuinely. I mean, hell, they did you the benefit of taking themselves out. You don't have to worry about cutting them off or severing ties with friendships. Those two decided to walk away from you. Don't let them calling you a bad friend get to you, because from everything described in this, it honestly just sounds like they're pretty miserable, and hey, lucky you, they don't like you anymore. You don't have to delay your 21st birthday vacation plans by 2 months because you're afraid to talk to them and tell them that you don't have the room to invite them. That should have been enough for you to realize, hey, maybe these people aren't good to have as friends. Like, seriously. Punk astronaut. I kicked the client out the door because he came in 5 minutes before closing. I work at a copy center. We print documents and photos. At 9:54 p.m., a guy came in to print business cards. First of all, why the fuck is he in here 5 minutes before closing time? Second, he came in with something that can't be solved in 5 minutes because A, it's fucking business cards, and B, he started asking a bunch of stupid follow-up questions, meaning he had no idea what he needed. You're probably guessing that business cards are printed and sliced on a machine in large runs. We have a maximum of 50 plus pieces in our production facility, and that it's not done in a regular office with a Xerox machine. Even if it isn't, that's fine, because you'll likely listen politely to my explanation, realize you won't get the results you want now, and go home afterwards. He didn't go home, but continued to ask if it was possible to print on a regular sheet of paper right now. I, knowing the tricks of Xerox, said that no, double-sided printing of business cards will not work. It prints with a shift of a few millimeters, and if you adjust the layout of business cards to this shift, you'd just be fucking tired of moving this shit by millimeter on the screen. But the result will not be achieved. And the color will definitely not be the same. He continued to insist that he needed these stupid business cards and asked how long it would take me to adjust this layout, to which he received a direct answer. None. I will not be doing it, especially now. But even after that, he did not calm down and asked to make him at least one-sided. To make him finally go away, I even printed him a couple of sheets of his business cards on plain paper. I'll clarify. I don't mind getting into a person's situation if they urgently need to do something, to help them even if my working hours are over. But this one came in with a blissful smile and a pile of questions, not giving a fuck about the fact that it's not my working hours, and what killed me was when he started asking irrelevant questions like, where do you go to college? Again, nothing wrong with small talk, but not at 10 p.m. I realized he's a total jerk, and at this pace, he's going to sit here until he's tongue-tied or ends up starting to hit on me. I asked him if he would take these papers, which he didn't like the color of. Of course. And he said no, so I pointed him to the door with a straight hand and said goodbye. Edit. After reading the comments, I wanted to add some clarification. The client was out the door at 10:03 p.m. after my shift was over. Fair enough. If you think that service workers should be overworked for free because of your poor time management, go touch grass. The world doesn't revolve around you. Yeah, if you're coming in at 9:55 p.m., 5 minutes before a shop closes, and expecting a very complex order, that's just not gonna happen, and that 100% is on you for your poor time management. Normally, business cards require a very specialized form of ink and cardstock to be printed on because you gotta be able to get those fucking Pantone colors that cost money to use. I hate that they're able to copyright colors. That's fucking ridiculous. But you're gonna have to have a very specialized machine that's gonna be able to have those special inking and printing abilities and then be able to actually properly cut them in a perfect kind of shape, and you're not gonna be able to pull that off with your regular standard mill printer. That's just not how that shit works. And yeah, I understand that most people probably aren't going to immediately understand that a lot of shops and companies like this aren't going to have the specialized machine to produce and create business cards rapidly, but still. Why are you at 9:55 p.m. trying to get business cards printed? You had your entire day behind you where you could have come in at any time to get this order fulfilled and done. But no, 5 minutes before the store closes. And not to mention, a lot of stores don't permit overtime, so any time that you spend on the clock after your shift, they're not going to pay you because they don't want you there. You're there against the permission of the company. I'm not saying every business is like that, but there certainly are quite a few that operate by those standards. So, past 10 o'clock, there's a good chance OP just isn't being paid anymore. So why should they be forced to help a customer for free after they're supposed to be going home? Also, even if you want to try to make the argument of like, well, it's just one customer one time and you might make their night, so just let it happen. Just take care of it real quick. When I worked in fast food, I had a customer come in 2 minutes before closing, and they spent 3 minutes thinking about what to order, so they ordered after closing. Well, me being a naive 16-year-old, I thought, well, you know what, it's only a few minutes after closing, so I may as well just quickly fulfill this order. It was, after all, just a burger and fries, and I can whip those out pretty quick. So I made their meal, put it in a to-go box, and they sat inside and ate their meal, which I thought was weird, but I was busy closing, so I didn't think too much of it. They left, and that was the end of that. Or so I thought. The next day, they showed up with their husband 5 minutes after closing because they thought it was now acceptable for them to show up later. Thankfully, I was able to tell them that, hey, I've already turned off the fryers and the grill, and it's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes to get the oil heated back up to proper cooking temperature. This was kind of a lie, but it worked. And I guarantee you, if I fulfilled that order that night, they would keep showing up every night after closing, expecting to get their order fulfilled even though we closed, and I just want to go home. Invincible Comics. Surprised they got away with that. Entitled Owner Stalks Me because I don't want our dogs to meet. Again. This just happened and I'm honestly kind of stressed about how to deal with this. For context, I own a 10-month-old Doberman puppy. When I just got her, she met a local German Shepherd who scratched her to death by standing over her in an extremely dominant way while she was screaming out in fear. I told the owner to call his dog back, but apparently the dog wouldn't listen if he tried. And she would just have to learn. Obviously, I avoided the guy after this, and there was another instance where I made her sit and look at me as he walked past. And the man just started yelling at me that my dog wouldn't amount to anything, etc. The way he said all this just has me perplexed. I can't imagine this upset over me just minding my own business, and I cannot imagine having the guts to act this way. Well, now to what happened today. I was walking my puppy back home and I could see that down the road, this guy and his German Shepherd were walking my way. No problem. I just crossed the road. The man then also crosses the road a few minutes later, now walking the direction I'm going. And when he sees me cross the road again, he stops and waits near my building, clearly trying to make eye contact with me even though I am still far away. Listen, there is absolutely no reason for this guy to stand there waiting while staring at me. He is clearly waiting for me so he can yell at me again, or maybe even send his dog up to me, because I just have a strong suspicion that is what he wants to do. I walked across a little playground in front of my house as it was the only other way I could go to avoid him, but next time, I may not be so lucky. As soon as he lost sight of me, he continued walking, clearly annoyed. The owner is an old man who clearly has never had a reason to fear anyone, and I don't think anything I can say will make this situation better, but will definitely make it worse. He also clearly has nothing better to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if he loves seeing his dog being dominant over others. The reason I don't let our dogs figure it out is because this dog is twice her size and she is terrified of German Shepherds, loves all other dogs. The dog is also extremely dominant and has no compassion for others. Kinda like the owner, lol. Anyway, I'm dreading running into this guy again, not sure what to do. I will do anything to protect my dog and I would have no issue letting the guy know that, but I'd rather avoid escalating the situation if possible, even if the guy is doing everything he can to escalate it. Edit, thank you for everyone who's given me suggestions on how to deal with this. I didn't expect this many helpful comments and it makes me feel a lot better. I have contacted the police to ask for advice on how to proceed, and if possible, I will file a report. One of my neighbors has offered to come to me if I see him again, and I will also record if I see the man again. If he tries to wait for me near my house another time, I will immediately call the police. Lastly, I cannot get pepper spray or any other dog repellent where I live, but I got some helpful advice on how to make it myself. I hope I will not have to use it, but if it's really necessary, I will not hesitate to. I would do anything to defend my dog. Honestly, it sounds like this guy just lives a very sad and impersonable life and has no one around him besides his dog that he allows to essentially bully and berate others the same way he does. And that's kind of why he said your dog won't amount to anything. Like, what the fuck does that mean? It's a dog. It's just supposed to have a good life and wag its tail and smile and maybe drool a couple times. It only gets a couple of times worth of drool though, any more than that and oh boy, that dog is gonna get fined. But seriously, won't amount to anything? Like, dude, it's a dog. It's not supposed to go to fucking Harvard. Like, what are you talking about, dude? But yeah, as many of the Redditors have suggested, definitely getting the police involved in this instance is probably your best bet here because he's gonna try to do anything he can to try to escalate the situation, and he just probably enjoys doing that. He's probably very lonely and has nothing else to really go for in his life. Also, if he just allows his dog to attack your dog and says that they need to just figure it out, he's a horrible fucking dog owner and doesn't know shit about how to properly train a dog. My biggest fear is that by his own admittance, he can't control the dog. What if it goes after a child? Like, something's gotta be done about this angry knuckle dragger or else he's gonna fucking do more and just cause more problems. If you really want to, by the way, get photos, get evidence of him stalking and kind of being outside of your property, and just collect a lot of evidence. If you get enough, especially with his dog being aggressive, it should be fairly easy to CPO or a TRO against him. On a lighter hand note, if you do want your dog to amount to something, teach your dog how to skateboard, because can't really argue with that. Oh, what kind of boring shit does your German Shepherd do? Attack other dogs? Well, mine is a fucking skateboard. You dumb shit. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code OZ at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code OZ directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code OZ at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.